What's going on, y'all? It's JD PicKell. Today on the Hard Count, Arch Manning has scheduled yet another unofficial visit to the University of Texas. What does this mean for the Longhorns? Welcome into CFB with JD, the People's Channel. For everything you know, everything you love about college football happens here, happens nearly every single day, so I would encourage you to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Armstrong Sims, Jack McKenzie do the real heavy lifting behind the show and the production and everything that you see here, and you drive the show. One way you can help drive the show is at my Twitter page, at JD PicKell. We do snippets of the show. We do chalk talks. We do open-ended questions. We do polls. One of those polls we most recently posted was, where's Arch Manning going to end up at? And a whopping 40% of you said the University of Texas at Austin. Now, that may have been a little bit inflated because of recency bias. Arch Manning just scheduled another unofficial visit to the University of Texas for the weekend of March 24th. Why is this significant? By my count, this is his third, count them three, his third unofficial visit to UT. That's a huge deal. We're going to jump more into why that is in just a minute. But let's break down his recruitment as a whole as it stands right now. Top schools are Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas. So those are the five as of right now. Clemson was in the mix for a little bit there. Sounds like they're not really so much anymore. A lot of interesting fits. Georgia and Bama, I think the first thing that jumps out is, okay, culture. There's a stable culture in place. That coach isn't going anywhere. And two, winning. Whichever school you go to of those two, you will win a lot of football games. Nick Saban's the edge for Alabama, the chance to play for the GOAT, the greatest of all time in college football. It's got to be appealing. And then for Georgia, recency bias, again, they just won the Natty. So you got to be thinking, okay, I go to Georgia, maybe I'm a part of a dynasty, get there on the early end and allow this program to take it to the very next level and become the Alabama of this new generation. A lot of things to look at there. Ole Miss is interesting because of Lane Kiffin. I don't have a ton of confidence personally he's going to stay at Ole Miss for a long time, but he's a heck of a recruiter. If someone's going to get Arch Manning in the boat to a place like Ole Miss, it might as well be Lane Kiffin. He's currently still renting in Oxford or in the state of Mississippi, close enough to the university to where he can be the head coach there. That gives me some sort of indication, okay, he's not 100% sold on Ole Miss. His name was thrown around when the Miami job was supposedly up for grabs. We'll see if he sticks at Ole Miss. I think that's going to be kind of a turnoff for Arch, but that's the appeal, I guess, if you're Arch Manning. That and family ties, right? Eli Manning went there. His dad, Cooper Manning, went there. So there's some allegiance probably to Ole Miss. LSU, I think, is the dark horse in this whole conversation because of Brian Kelly. You now have what a lot of people would assume is some stability with Brian Kelly. They're going to let Brian Kelly stick around for a little bit. He's going to recruit really well, get a lot of toys for Arch Manning. Also, right in his backyard, he's been around LSU when they were winning the national championship. He was at practice when Joe Burrow was there, Jamar Chase was there, Justin Jefferson was there, Clyde Edwards-Helaire was there. He's been around that program in a very close capacity when it is firing on all cylinders. And I think that's really exciting to him. So if they can get back to that level, maybe a school to look at pretty closely. But again, this is a Texas video, and Texas has landed him for another unofficial visit, assuming they'll get an official visit when his time comes to take those. I heard from another source close to Texas, they're expecting him to take another unofficial visit after this. So assuming it would be somewhere early in the season, maybe it's after his official, maybe it's before his official. Timeline is still up in the air, but they're saying, hey, he's going to take another one after this. Now, why is this significant? For those of you that don't know, an unofficial visit essentially just means you're paying your own way there. Now, for Arch Manning, it's probably a plane flight or it's a long car ride. His family's probably doing okay for money. I mean, his last name is Manning, so we can assume that he's all right financially. But still, the fact that he is taking it upon himself to visit Texas for a third time means that the buzz is real, right? At the very least, we can assume that the buzz around the University of Texas is legit, because for so long we've thrown around Bama, we've thrown around Georgia. There's not a lot of things that have become concrete just yet in his recruitment, But I think this third unofficial visit signifies, okay, he is for sure interested in Texas. Texas has got to be in the top two or three, in my opinion. On3 has a recruiting predicting machine. I don't know what goes into that. I don't know how official it is or unofficial it is. Basically, they broke it down from percentage standpoint of the top 3 schools. They got Bama with a 30% chance to land him, Georgia with a 25% chance to land him, Texas with a 20% chance to land him. I like what they're doing there, but I don't trust it completely because I would even put Texas probably a shade above one of those two. Okay, I'm not saying that they're in pole position or that they're necessarily going to be the school that ends up getting him. But in terms of where you are right now in your recruitment, if you're Arch Manning, you got to feel pretty good about Texas. So what's it going to take to get him to Texas, all right? What actually has to happen for him to become a Longhorn? Well, I'll tell you. I think you got to cash in on the rapport you have with him right now. How do you do that? Got to win games and allow there's going to be some stability for Steve Sarkisian. Because Arch Manning's already come out and said that he's not going to recruit until a little bit later because things are crazy with coaches. And he just saw in this last cycle, you had a ton of jobs come open somewhat unexpectedly. And if you're a recruit, much less a quarterback of the caliber of Arch Manning, you want to probably play for the same guy 4 years in a row. You don't want to have a coaching change 2 years. You don't want to go transfer portal. You want to find your home from your freshman year, stay 3, maybe 4 years, depending on where he goes, and then get out of there and be an NFL draft pick. That's the goal for Arch Manning. That becomes a lot harder to do when you have turnover at the head coach position and have disarray within your program and wherever you're at on your team. So you got to win games and make sure that and allow for Arch Manning to feel secure in that Steve Sarkisian's our guy. He's going to be here for a minute. So you got to win games, create that cushion. Second, I think this is icing on the cake. Get David Cutcliffe in the boat, man. Get him out of retirement. Get him to be an offensive analyst, offensive assistant. Whatever term you have to put on David Cutcliffe to get him in burnt orange, do that. Because like we said in the previous video, that's going to only put the Manning nerves more and more at ease. I don't know how much nerves they have around Texas, but if you're going to have any, you could only assume it's about the culture, the rebuild, the regeneration of Texas right now, because that's what's going on. You've seen it in the transfer portal. A lot of things happening from the inside out, right? The culture's getting revamped. They're trying to essentially give themselves a new good name, right? Well, David Cutcliffe is someone who has a lot of rapport with the Manning family. So if you get him, everybody starts to feel a little bit better about the Texas changes, a little bit better about the Texas culture, a little bit better about who's calling the shots at Texas because you trust David Cutcliffe. Why do you trust him? Well, a little guy named Eli Manning and Peyton Manning both played for him at their respective schools in college. So you feel good about his development there. So I really think that's what it comes down to. Can Texas put the money where their mouth is? Not literally, because we know they got a lot of money, but can they put the money where their mouth is in terms of production on the field? Because if you want to get Arch Manning, you got to win games. He's not going to go to a losing program. He's not going to go somewhere where they're still going through developmental changes. You got to have a somewhat finished product to land Arch Manning, and that's what it comes down to for me. Again, a lot of game left to be played in his recruitment. He's not going to make a decision until, I would say, probably even closer to after his senior season, just because of what happens in the coaching cycle. I think we'll see him at that first signing day make a decision. If I had to pick a horse in this race, it's hard to pick against Texas right now. I've said Georgia from the beginning, but it's looking more and more like the Longhorns are going to make a very, very serious push for Arch Manning. That's it for us here on The Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter. We're going to follow this recruitment very, very closely all the way through. This is your home for all Arch Manning content. We're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.